They stopped texting. They stopped calling. They went from constant communication to complete silence. And you're sitting there wondering what you did wrong. But here's what no one tells you. The silence isn't about you. It's about them. And understanding why people pull away has nothing to do with your worth and everything to do with their psychology. Let me tell you what's really happening when someone goes silent. They're not busy. They're not overwhelmed. They're not going through something they can't share. They're making a choice, a deliberate, conscious choice to create distance. And that choice reveals more about their emotional capacity than it does about your value. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. Their silence is an outside event. Your reaction to it, that's where your power lives. Because the moment you stop chasing an explanation and start observing the pattern, everything shifts. Here's the psychology. People pull away when they feel something they're not ready to process. Fear, vulnerability, the weight of real connection. And instead of communicating that, they disappear. They ghost. They go silent. Because silence is easier than honesty. Absence is easier than intimacy. And running is easier than staying, and doing the work. But let's be clear about something. The silence isn't mysterious. It's not complicated. It's not some deep psychological puzzle you need to decode. It's simple. They don't want to be there enough to show up. And every minute you spend analyzing their silence is a minute you're not spending accepting the message it's already sending. The Stoics understood that people show you who they are through their actions, not their words. And silence? That's an action. It's a statement. It's them telling you exactly where you rank in their priorities. And the question isn't, why are they silent? The question is, why are you still listening? Here's what happens when someone pulls away. At first, you panic. You replay every conversation. You analyze every interaction. You convince yourself that if you just figure out what went wrong, you can fix it. But there's nothing to fix, because the problem isn't something you did. It's something they're avoiding. And you can't solve someone else's emotional cowardice. Let me break down the real psychology of silence. When someone pulls away, they're operating from one of three places: fear, selfishness, or indifference. And none of those have anything to do with you. Fear looks like this. They felt something real, something deep, and it terrified them. So instead of leaning in, they pull back. They create distance to protect themselves from the vulnerability that comes with genuine connection. They'd rather lose you than risk being seen. That's not your failure. That's their limitation. Selfishness looks like this. They got what they needed from you: attention, validation, emotional support. And now they're done. They didn't pull away because you changed. They pull away because you served your purpose. You were never a person to them. You were a resource. And resources get discarded when they're no longer useful. Indifference looks like this. They were never as invested as you thought. You built a connection in your mind that didn't exist in theirs. They were present, but not committed, engaged, but not attached. And the moment something easier, shinier, or more convenient came along, you became optional. That's not rejection. That's clarity. The Buddha taught that attachment is the root of suffering, but he didn't mean stop caring. He meant stop clinging to outcomes you can't control. Their silence is an outcome. You can't control it. You can't fix it. You can't reason with it. All you can do is accept it and decide what you're going to do with that information. Here's what most people get wrong. They think if they just give it time, the person will come back. If they just stay patient, the silence will break. If they just prove their worth, the distance will close. But that's not how this works, because people who pull away without explanation aren't waiting for you to do something. They're waiting for you to stop mattering. And the cruel part? The longer you wait, the more power you give them. Every day you spend in limbo is a day they spend moving on. Every night you lie awake wondering why is a night they sleep soundly, unbothered by your absence. The silence isn't hurting them, it's only hurting you. And that imbalance should tell you everything you need to know. Epictetus said, "Don't demand that things happen as you wish, but wish that they happen as they do happen, and you will go on well." They pulled away. That's what happened. And wishing it were different doesn't change the reality. Acceptance isn't giving up. It's refusing to participate in your own suffering. So what do you do when someone goes silent? You match their energy. Not out of spite, not to manipulate them into reaching out, but because your attention is valuable and people who disappear don't deserve access to it. You stop checking if they viewed your story. You stop crafting the perfect message to send. You stop performing for an audience that left the theater. Here's the part that changes everything. Their silence is a gift. Not in the moment, not when it's fresh and raw and confusing. But eventually, you'll see it for what it is. A filter. A way of separating people who are serious about you from people who are just passing time. And anyone who can walk away without a word was never going to stay through the hard parts anyway. The Stoics believed in amor fati. Love your fate, even the painful parts, especially the painful parts. Because this silence, this distance, this person who pulled away, they're teaching you something crucial. They're showing you that words without action are meaningless, that presence without consistency is performance, that someone being there isn't the same as someone staying. And once you learn that lesson, you stop tolerating half-hearted effort. You stop making excuses for people who can't show up. You stop convincing yourself that silence is a phase and not a choice, because you've seen what happens when people actually care. They don't disappear. They don't go quiet. They don't leave you guessing. They stay. They communicate. They show up even when it's uncomfortable. Here's what silence really reveals: character. Not yours, theirs. How someone exits your life tells you everything about who they were while they were in it. And someone who can ghost you, ignore you, or pull away without explanation, that's someone who was never fully present to begin with. You didn't lose them. You just finally saw them clearly. Seneca said, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." You're imagining reasons for their silence. You're creating narratives where they're struggling, overwhelmed, or dealing with something too heavy to share. But the reality is simpler and harder. They just don't want to be there. And the moment you stop imagining alternatives and accept that reality, you're free. So stop waiting for closure. Stop expecting an explanation. Stop thinking there's some magic combination of words or actions that will bring them back. There isn't. Because people who want to stay don't need a reason. And people who want to leave will find one no matter what you do. Instead, redirect that energy. The energy you were spending trying to decode their silence. Use it to build something better. The attention you were giving to someone who disappeared, give it to yourself. The space they left, fill it with people who don't make you question where you stand. Here's your final truth. Their silence doesn't define you. It defines them. It shows you who they are when things get real, when vulnerability is required, when showing up takes effort. And what it shows you is this: they're not ready. Not for depth, not for consistency, not for you. And that's okay, because you don't need people who are almost there. You don't need people who are present when it's convenient and absent when it's not. You need people who stay, who communicate, who don't leave you drowning in silence while they move on with their life. So let them pull away. Let them stay silent. Let them disappear into whatever they're running toward. And you stay here, present, whole, unbothered by people who couldn't handle what you were offering. Because their silence isn't the end of your story. It's just the end of theirs.